This week on One Day Leader, our leaders take on the contentious issue of fast-tracking land reform in South Africa. You don't want to miss this. Good evening, sanibonani nonke emakhaya ngiphinde nginamukele ohlelweni labaholi benu bakusasa One Day Leader. Igama lami nguPearl Wakashongwe. Welcome to One Day Leader, the show that confronts pressing issues of the day through debate-driven challenges. Now, last week in Mzansi, we revealed to you who our final top 6 leaders are, and they introduced us to their first strides in taking on their leadership roles. This week, they'll be stretching their skills to deal with land reform challenges in South Africa, which leads us to our topic today. While the majority is calling for land expropriation without compensation, do we as a society have a plan to ensure it will benefit the country economically? You can be a part of the conversation and even share your very own experiences by visiting our Facebook page, One Day Leader SA, to share your thoughts on our topic. Also, you can take a look at our Twitter page at One Day Leader, and of course, make sure that you keep us trending throughout the hour. Hashtag One Day Leader 6. Now, our leaders are ready to tackle this issue. Let's hear what their vision statements are. Leader 1, welcome. Your vision statement, please.
There is one revolution our country needs. It's the revolution of the quality of our leadership. A good leader understands that they are personally responsible for becoming more ethical than the society they grew up in. As a rising leader of South Africa, I am determined to contribute to the creation of a disciplined leadership culture. There's a new sheriff in town, and she means business. Let's get to the business of today, of leading with discipline, integrity, and passion. If we can lead ourselves well, we can lead a nation even better.
Thank you very much, Leader 1. Leader 2, it's your turn. Your vision statement, please.
I declare in Africa and South Africa at large, which strives for economic emancipation through the empowerment of our local economies and industrialization. Hashtag Africa is possible.
Leader 3, it's your turn.
I am Mumandla, armored in hope and faith, marching towards the realization of the dreams of African women, striving for a South Africa where young people are no longer bound by the chains of generational poverty and illiteracy, where we have realized the prosperous economization of our indigenous knowledge systems and increased value systems in our townships. South Africa, the unchained generation arises.
Leader 4, the stage is yours.
I believe in a South Africa where the injustices of the past are corrected. The means of production benefit the poor. The property ownership of the country is not in favor of the minority. Indeed, a South Africa where we don't see people according to color, but we see people according to humanity. We are Lions, we are the future, and nothing can stop us.
Leader 5, we'd like to hear from you.
My grandmother tells me of a South Africa where umuntu was umuntu ngabantu, where it was kindness and not political affiliations that ruled the land. Law and legislation to a nation where the human spirit has been broken can conquer nothing. Wealth and success are futile if we have lost our humanity. It begins and ends with us. Mayibuye i-Afrika.
And we turn to our final leader. Your vision statement, please.
South Africa, I envision a leader that will empower a child from a rural area in a township to lead, give a nation access to resources and quality education, and its economy will remain alive. Hashtag we are chancing for change.
Well, strong vision statements from our leaders. Let's hope that they'll follow through on their promises when they come face to face with this week's task. Now, last week, you at home voted for your favorite leader. Let's have a look at our scoreboard to see which leader got the highest viewer votes.
This week's viewer scoreboard sees Leader 6, Zongezile, leading the pack with 1,522 viewer votes, and Leader 2, Pilar Sunday, trailing behind with 87 votes. Now, this means that Leader 6, Zongezile, gets 1 point. Congratulations! Now, leading the pack with 3 points is Leader 4, Begisisa, closely followed by Leader 1, 2, and 6 with 2 points, and trailing way behind is Leader 5 and Leader 3 with 1 point each.
Well, this sounds very exciting indeed, Nikumbulapa Makaya, to continue voting for your favorite leader. To vote for Kukule, to SMS 1 to 32672. To vote for Pilar Sande, SMS Leader 2. For Kuhlegonke, SMS Leader 3. For Bekisisa, SMS Leader 4. For Sibonisile, SMS Leader 5. And for Zongezile, SMS Leader 6. Now, the Land Access Movement of South Africa is an independent community-based organization advocating for land and agrarian rights. Now, representing them today as our guest judge is land reform activist Constance Mogale, a board member of the organization. Welcome to One Day Leader. Constance, we are dying to hear your opinion in terms of the land reform issue. It's one that has been thrown out there into the public spectrum. Do people really understand what land reform means?
Land reform was supposed to address the past injustices that came about with apartheid laws, like, for example, the 1913 Land Act and the 1936 Land Act, which facilitated forced removals and declared black spots and formed townships and former Bantustans. So the 1994 era was a ray of hope to many black South Africans who lost land, and the Land Access Movement of South Africa was then called Transvaal Land Restoration Committee. If you look at the history of dispossession, by 1913, the land was taken from the black people. Only 9% belonged to the black people, and 4% was reserved for towns and major developments. So that is why there is this argument of the skewed patterns of ownership in South Africa, where 13% of the land is occupied by black people and 87% of the land is in the private hands of white minority and big companies. So the land reform was supposed to address those past injustices, was supposed to come up with laws that are going to make sure that there's harmony in South Africa, but everybody has a piece of sly and a place called home in South Africa.
Of course, let's not forget, we also have our resident judges, Catherine Constantinides and Tebogo Ditshego. Let's also give them a warm welcome. Let's now take a look at the task given to our leaders in relation to today's issue. Good day, leaders. In 1999, Rifenkgotso Community Trust, which consisted of about 150 members, became beneficiaries of 3 farms through the willing buyer, willing seller principle. Unfortunately, the project fell through the cracks and it failed. Today, it's your duty to go and investigate and find out why and what led to the failure of this project. Buhlegonke, you are the leader on this task. Good luck, leaders. You're dismissed.
So we're about to meet with Tabang. I don't know. I feel that I'm a bit nervous.
How did it feel to take instructions?
The most difficult thing is that we've all been chosen to be leaders, but there's certain tasks where you need to lower down a little bit and let somebody else lead you.
I had to, compromise, even though sometimes you'd be like, I wish things would go this way, but the majority will be, let's go this way.
What I've learned is that the lines here are becoming very easily blurred, because as much as this is for us to show our leadership qualities, this is also a competition. Okay. And I think that's where a lot of the conflict also comes from, and that's what I'm sure.
Leadership is never personal. Yeah. You see, a leader rises in conflict, and conflict is inevitable. And also just know that every task actually shows you who you truly are, not the next person. So most importantly, learn about yourself in this journey.
I'm excited about the topic, mainly because I'm a geography and environmental management graduate.
In history, in South Africa, we know those who have the land, what they did to get the land. Van Riebeeck was here, and he came with no bags of land. I believe the land must be taken without compensating.
Nna ka lebitso ke Malfane Rabodile ke tswa mo Rifenkgotso Community Property Trust. Muso no re reketse dipolasi gore re thole polasi tsena go hlaile le buruleleng le borone kwana a fihla a re bolella ka tšhelete e tswang mmusong go tshwanetse re kopane re etse ntho ka reng trust mmuso o tla re fa tšhelete re reke polasi eo e re e batlang so re la ra kopana re la ra ba ra thola dipolasi tseo e le dipolasi tse tharo ne re di sebedisetsa go lema re bile bangata haholo hodima polasi mara ka gore re ne re sa utlwane re la ra hloleha ho sebetsa go fihlela dipolasi tseo di re hlola ha ke sheba dipolasi tsena tsene re di fuwe mo gongwe go le gotle go na le ditwene tse ntle go na le dikhabetšhe tse kgolo tse kana mara ha o sheba hana jwale ke kwa bohloko haholo gobane go hlaile tlharitlhari e putso e kana dipolasi re di rekisitse kaofela ka boraro ba tsona ka go hloleha ha rona teng ile a re ha go so ya mafelelong ba tsamaya ba inkela diterekere ba di rekisa ba bang ba etsa mehlolo ka yona e mong a e sebedisetsa melemong ya hae ra bona gore a qetellong jwale e tlo isa matsohong re tlo tshwarana ka matsoho go betere dipolasi tse re di rekise le thulusunyana tse setse
Now, after the break, our leaders complete their task by meeting a land beneficiary who managed to maximize land ownership. Ningaindao. Welcome back. You are still watching One Day Leader Season 6. Before the ad break, we saw how Ripengkgotso Community Trust suffered the same fate. And today, they are landless and economically disempowered. If expropriation of land without compensation becomes a reality, Mzansi, what measures should be put in place to prevent a failure of the policy? Well, our leaders took it upon themselves to meet a land beneficiary who had a different story to tell, a good story to tell about land redistribution.
In the car, we all sat down, searching the internet about anything that we could find about the community trust that we were investigating. In the previous task, you know, we all wanted to ask questions. Everyone owned their question, was like, it was yours and you have to have the best answer. But this time we said that every question belongs to the group because the group wants to fulfill the task as best as possible. What does a trust do?
Igama le trust yethu be Ripengkgotso Communal Property Trust. Saphiwa le farmer ke. Sibantu bangaka ngo 151. Saphuma sayofuna imali sayiboleka sazosebenza. Then saqala ukulima ngo1998. Imvula yakangani kahle. Awuyasishaya impela manje. Awusangatholi lutho impela. Kwatholakala ukuthi manje
Lack of getting proper advices from those who were leading led them to the whole entire thing of, you know what, let's just sell so that we can curb the poverty that we are currently experiencing during that time.
Abayazi izathu abazifunela wona bafunela nje umhlaba umuntu bakuthiwa unomhlaba but abakwazi usebenzisa.
Saqala ngale plus ke ikonopiswanteni kakhona umlungu oyifunayo. Sathi yakulo mlungu sahlala phansi naye sathi man siyafuna ukukunika le plus mara mayingabe uzawukhona ukubhadala le mali engaka lesikolotayo har se re feditsa patetse sekoloto sa rona ha rena tšhelete jwale ya hore re ka sebetsa polasi tsane tse ithu ha re se re dutse fatshe komiti di dula fatshe ba re no ha re rekise no 1 plus re tseba ho fumana tšhelete re tseba ho sebetsa polasi e 1.
To have him show us the land that is no longer productive, that was very painful because
Above saying that they failed, I know that they needed the land because it was their livelihood.
Yini ocabanga ukuthi kungaba impendulo yokuthi inkingalezi esendlule kuzo zingenzeki futhi?
Hayi, akusana plaza elisele.
Leyesithathu, they ended up selling it to the municipality, and now we actually got a chance to go there, siyoyibona, and there's literally just shacks everywhere. I can't say they don't deserve to live there, but there definitely is a sense of loss because what that land was being used for was something that could have helped South Africa in the long run.
He said that he doesn't even want to be given the land back due to how harsh the whole process was.
Please tell us how big your farm is and what exactly you do on this farm.
650 hectares. So when I bought this farm, I took 300 hectares. It's 313 hectares. I'm going to plant here. And then from there, the rest of the remaining land, we use it for grazing.
What were you doing financially before you acquired this farm?
Yeah, before I used to, as we speak, in transport. I'm running out taxis out in Vereeniging.
Umehluko wababa fama bayi-2 uyi-1 esikakhulu. Lona besenolwazi le-business ngaphambili. Abanye aba bengazinix nge-business.
How do you get the agricultural sector to come here and help you in Deganjalo? Or like, how do they know about you?
Intrapid. Anything that you want to do in life, ne? Ibali that interest we all. We rat. Handna. Just I to the department. They won't know under the door.
Yeah.
Because I send nothing. But when the doors are open, Samaya knock at the door. The Department of Agriculture, they are welcome. They will welcome those people. But
Bob Jacobs is also developing our community. He's not only empowering himself and enriching himself. He has started mentorship programs. He's mentoring other upcoming youth, the upcoming youth that's very interested in the agriculture. And he also mentioned it, that you have to be very passionate about this when you get yourself into it.
Ngoba sekunale policy le ebafuna ukuyi-implementa yokuthi they want to expropriate land without compensation. Do you think izosebenza practically, or mangabe izosebenza iyiphi indlela mhlambe kungenziwa ngakhona?
Now I would have experienced kaena ntwene ya land without compensation. If you fita mo ka nka lefasile motho wa banka the lousy fela equipment a tsamaile yona an sale ke le so hey I will leo ka se kgonagale.
What I got was the land issue is definitely not a simple one. It's not as simple as uti saslala lana and we want this land, so give it to us, especially if it's farming land.
Well, that was the story of Thomas Jacobs, a progressive farmer from Dennisville, whose story illustrates that planning, management, vision, and proper government support are crucial to making new land ownership successful. Well, coming up next, our judges will evaluate the task undertaken by our leaders. See you after the break. Welcome back. You are still watching One Day Leader Khona Lagu SABC 1. Now, before the break, we saw our leaders undertake the task of uncovering the land reform challenges that have faced land beneficiaries in the past. Based on their findings, I can conclude that the issue of meaningful land redistribution is certainly a matter that should be approached with deep consideration, preparation, as well as planning. Well, it's time for us to hear from our judges how our leaders performed on that task. Before I get that verdict from you, Catherine, I'll start with you, Tebogo. I believe you have a question for our leader on this task.
Tell me, which models of land redistribution did you read up on before you went to the farms? And secondly, how much startup capital did the second landowner have in order for him to be able to start up his farm?
Well, the first thing that we had to identify is that there are certain types of land reform strategies. So there's one where we're talking about agriculture, and then there's security of tenure where people just want residential land. And then the other one would be to develop and property development, having more businesses. But in the context of Rifengkgotso, we first had to read the specific case study, and this one spoke specifically to agricultural land. Therefore, we actually understood the limitations and why that actually failed, and it was because of the lack of production capital. But when you're looking at Utatu Tom, the reason why he was able to start up a very successful farm was because he had his own capital. Now, this means that he has had his own business in terms of transport, so fencing and protecting himself. And when a drought happened, he had the information, he had an educational background in agriculture, which is something that did not exist in the Rifengkgotso Community Trust.
Catherine, your thoughts on how our leaders performed on their task this week, please?
I think that this was a really very important task, and I think that each and every one of you took something away that perhaps you didn't think of before you went on this task. So I wish that you would continue to actually share that information with your circles and continue to have these discussions at home, because this is a critical issue in our community. However, on this task, I did not feel that you engaged as much as you did in the previous one. I don't feel that anything like the first task was engaged as much here. So on this one, you're not going to receive a point.
Thank you, judges. Certainly, this is a moment that our leaders could learn from, and trust you'll do better next time. Well, our debate topic this week is the majority of people in our countries calling for land expropriation without compensation. So do we as a society have a plan to ensure that it will indeed benefit the country economically? Before we get started with our first debate, let's have a look at the rules of engagement.
These are the rules for the one-day leader debate. You have 30 seconds to state your vision statement. 60 seconds for the opponent to challenge, and 30 seconds to conclude your debate.
Our first debate will be between Leader 3, Gushegonke, and Leader 6, Zongezile. All right, let's come to our judges, entrepreneur, founder and CEO of Ditshego Media, Tebogo. Who should be for and who should be against on this debate?
Okay, Gushegonke Ntuli, you'll be against, and Zongezile Qaba, you'll be for.
All right, it is ladies first. Gushegonke, your 30 seconds starts now.
In a country with as many opportunities as South Africa, we ought to interrogate who are the beneficiaries and if these strategies are actually bridging the gap between the rich and the poor. When we talk about public interest, we ought to look at the history of South Africa and rest assured that we focus on the disadvantaged communities. For example, we ought to then have objectives such as having sustainable income strategies that result from land reforms. We ought to have security of tenure and most importantly, have upward mobility economically for those who are beneficiaries in
Thank
the
you very
community.
much, Gushegonke. Your time is up. Leaders, you have 60 seconds.
Gushegonke, if you were to give the land back to the people, right, how would you do it to avoid that there are no racial wars?
It's very important to understand that when we're talking about land reform, there are three strategies. If you're talking about land reform for his residential land, we need to make sure that the land is not for agricultural use.
Racial wars.
Racial wars. To answer your question, we have to ensure that we have a bridging process whereby there's partnership in the ways and in the schools in which are transferred. We do not think that as a nation we're at the point where we want to kill each other. We have to look at the history of this country and ask ourselves, what are the means, what are the policies? We already have land reforms which don't have bloodshed.
Another question. Does the government have money to buy land and give it to the people as we speak? Because currently the agricultural debt is over 100 billion and the money that gets given to the farmers
thank you very
is
much,
26
Zongezile.
billion.
I think that we need to look at the perspective that says that
All right, leaders, your 60 seconds is up.
The reason why willing seller and willing buyer has failed is mainly because Farmers and land property owners want the land to be sold at property value. Now, we need to move to a position whereby we're saying that it should be sold at equitable values. If those people don't agree, then we expropriate without compensation. We are a nation that wants to build the nation, but we need each other's assets and skills to build the nation and move towards progressing and having sustainability. Therefore, we should have communal ownership that does not give all powers to people for decision making, especially if they don't have.
All right, Zongezile, it's your turn. Your 30
South
seconds starts
Africa,
now.
the reality of the matter is that our economy will not survive if people do not have access to the land. Without land, our business skills would be pointless. Without land, our food security will be endangered. And without land, the dream of living in an equal society will never be achieved. But how can we work around the land issue? First of all, what we need to do is implement a rental policy for farmers who do not have the means to farm. The second thing that we need to do is implement a policy that will allocate land on the basis of your business plan. Do you have enough skills to invest in property?
You have 60 seconds.
Zongezile, have you interrogated that currently we do have land reforms, but the poor people in this country are not the ones benefiting? How do you implement and make sure that the poor people are the ones benefiting the most from land reforms and not someone who's already business?
I got it. So the poor people that we are talking about, they have skills, they have degrees in agriculture. So these skills, the only thing that they need is land. And to start up their business plan, accessibility. They don't have accessibility
I'm not
to
talking
start
about someone who
their
has an
business
educational
plans. Let me
background.
finish answering. I'm answering
Can
your
we engage
question.
you?
And also with the rental thing, look, the poor people in the past, right, they didn't have the knowledge, but now their kids are well educated. We have over 80% of children in our country studying agricultural sciences. We need to turn that knowledge into a practical solution.
In the reference of
going to work.
we know
The second thing that we need to do is that
can I engage you? You're going to have time
I'm answering your question. We need to subsidize them, subsidize the farmers, and also advise them that there's something
Thank you
called
very
insuring
much for
your
responding, Zongezile. What about the reference where the people were unemployed and sold the land back, mainly because they don't have household income?
All right, so
how are we trying to use the land?
Zongezile, you have the remaining
South
30
Africa, if we really care about the economy of our country, we should start by implementing the rental policy that I talked about. The second thing that we need to do is that we need to subsidize farmers so that they do not indebt themselves, and invest a lot in agriculture. The agricultural sector last year contributed grew by 33.3%, and it contributed largely to the GDP of our country, which is 0.7%. So we need people that are well informed, people who have skills, people who want to invest in property.
Thank you very much, leaders, and well done on that first debate. Deboch, I'll turn to you for feedback and comments on that first debate.
Well, both of you have grown from last week. I was a bit worried that it might turn into another fight, but it wasn't a screaming session. I like some of your solutions, Zongezile, where you speak about allocating land on the basis of your business plan. But I also want you to consider people who are dispossessed and just need a place to stay. Think about that in your future solutions. Kuhle konke, we were more impressed by you this week. You came up with very sustainable, sustainable income strategy. You spoke about security of tenure, and you said that it should be reasonably priced, and if they don't want to sell their land, then expropriation without compensation. So that shows the logical flow of your argument, and you have won. I just wanted to caution both of you with your preambles. Do not introduce your topic for too long. Get to the point and get straight to your solution.
Thank you very much. Well, congratulations to you, Kuhle for getting a point on that debate. Now, for you at home, the voting lines are officially open, so vote for your favorite leader and keep them in the competition by SMSing the word leader and the number to 32672. Your votes will be revealed at the top of next week's episode. Well, after the break, we get into our next round of debates. Ngaindao. Namugele go One Day Leader Season 6, the show that grooms potential leaders to becoming future leaders. Well, our next debate will be between Leader 2 and Leader 4. Before we get into that debate, Catherine, You're a social activist, you're a social entrepreneur. You really do understand social issues and how they affect our world. What will you be looking for in this debate? And won't you tell us who will be for and who will be against?
I'm really looking forward to this debate, and I would like to ask that Becky Sisa is against, and I would like to ask that Pilisande is for.
Thank you very much, Catherine. Leaders, I hope you're ready without wasting any more time. Pilasande, your 30 seconds starts now.
For the sake of South Africa and our economy, we should nationalize the land instead of giving back to the former owners. In that way, we'll prevent the people that are currently owning it from being disadvantaged. You must remember that South Africa is a diverse country. We are not only mainly a black country, we do have people that are white in here as well. We do not want to see what happened in Zimbabwe happening in South Africa. So I put a motion of nationalize the land. The only way people should operate in it is through leasehold. As for
Thank you very much. Time is up. Pilasande, you have 60 seconds, leaders.
How will that benefit the country economically?
Look at it this way. If we rent out the land,
Yeah.
first of all, the people that were formerly disadvantaged, this is how they will be able to use the land. We will subsidize them, incubate them, business-wise.
To who?
Sorry?
Renting it to who?
To all the people that are wanting to use it for business interest. Remember, some of the people that are owning the land are using it for the benefit of the economy.
There are people
So now, if you
who want to
remove
be
them-
in business, but they don't have money. How will
Exactly,
they
that's
rent
what I'm
that?
getting at. So now this is what will happen. The government will subsidize them, incubate
What
them
about those
business-wise.
who are living in Alexandra like pigs?
I just said what will happen is this. To those who want to use it for business interest, they will be incubated, subsidized, and skilled. And now for those who are in need of residential areas, the government should put policies in which will give them land.
What policies? Don't wish-wash. Be direct. What policies?
A policy that will allow them to be given residential for free.
For free?
Exactly. That's just like RPP is currently doing.
Pilasande, your remaining 30 seconds starts now.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Freedom Charter states that this land is for all those who live in it. It is not just for one racial group. So we should not betray that. We should make sure this land benefits for all those who live in it. We should not reverse the whole situation of, what happened back in the day, whereby the people that came in South Africa, they took out the land away from the people that were owning it. We should make sure that everybody that's in this country is benefiting from it.
Thank you very much. All right, leaders, the tables are turned. Leader 4, your opening statement.
Land reform in South Africa has been a direct insult to the poor of this country. 10% of the land has been returned in 20 years. It means it would take South Africa to return the land of 30% 100 years. So the government would have wasted trillions in money, and that will lead to protesters because people will be hungry for the land. Therefore, we need expropriation of land without compensation for equal redistribution to this country. That has worked in China, that has worked in Venezuela.
All right, time is up, Leader 4. All right, your 60 seconds starts now.
Now look at it this way. We've got people that are currently operating this land for the sake of the economy, for the benefit of the poor. So now if we take it away from them, how will we continue supporting these people that are benefiting out of this?
South Africa, listen to me. This concept has been misrepresented. When I say the land is expropriated, idling land will be taken and the state is the custodian. Existing farms, existing banks, existing mines would be told to give workers their shares. Because in Marikana, those murderers were prepared to give billions.
Did you listen to my question? Did you listen to my question? My question is, how will they benefit the poor if you remove it away? Look at.
I'm not removing.
Look at the trust. Look at the trust. Most of the people that were in the trust were illiterate. So now, how do we put them? How do we make them to, benefit the people of this country?
When the state is the custodian, the state will give the land like a grant.
What is the criteria? What is the criteria for that?
The criteria, you have to be direct in what you want.
Leader 4, your closing statement.
South Africa, the land was taken through black genocide. Mandela was arrested for the land. Sobukwe was killed for the land. Khizani was murdered for the land. Willing buyer, willing seller is an insult because it means even if you have the money, but you want to buy the land, That person who doesn't want to sell the land, you won't get the land. So the land has to be expropriated without compensation. And in that way, the wealth of the country will be distributed.
Time is up. All right, we will now turn to our guest. Constance, you have heard the two different views. Are our leaders truly understanding the topic, or are they clutching at populist lines when it comes to this issue?
Yeah, I think it's either or it's a mix, because the literature and the narrative that people are reading is like land is a commodity, therefore it has to be used for economic reasons only. And I feel like the two arguments are leaving out the social aspects of land reform, the cultural and social aspect, the attachment that black people has to the land. Land is not for only economic production. We should not ignore political, social, and all the cultural factors of why land reform is important in South Africa. And yes, as much as I want to agree with some number 4 because of emotionally I agree with, but I think presenting the facts is not like logical, like he is presenting the facts. So it's not always, the person who wins is not always the right argument, but in fact, even in court, a criminal can win the case because of the way he presents his facts.
Thank you very much. Tebogo, the verdict, please.
So it was very tough, and it was very tight, but the winner is Begisisa.
Congratulations to you, Begisisa. Now, you at home can also join the conversation by visiting our Facebook page, One Day Leader SA, to share your views and comments on our burning topic today. Also visit our Twitter page at One Day Leader and hashtag One Day Leader 6. Well, our final debate is pretty obvious that it is going to be a battle between the two ladies, Gugulethu and Sibonisile. We turn to Catherine now to let us know who will be for and who will be against on this final debate.
I'd like to see Gugulethu start off being against, and Sibonisile, you will be for.
All right, Gugulethu, your 30 seconds starts now.
South Africa, we have not been liberal enough on the issue of land expropriation. As our judge has said, someone has to say he or she agrees on expropriation for public purpose. However, political parties can state what their purposes are, but it is disingenuous to make such announcements as land expropriation without compensation, without dealing with the fact of why this process has already been delayed for so many years. As my other fellow comrades have said, we do not want to see what happened in Zimbabwe.
Thank you very much. Leaders, you have 60 seconds to engage.
You have not answered the question, which is about compensation, which is about taking the land without compensation. What is your solution to that? You're supposed to
Before we get to the solution, let me highlight some problems with you with the passing of this law of expropriation without compensation. First of all, Section 25 of the Constitution guarantees just and equitable compensation. So what you are now proposing, that you want expropriation without compensation, is contradicting the Constitution on its own. The Constitution has got no room for that.
It is the government that has proposed it.
Okay.
I am not proposing it. The government has looked that the previous way has not worked, and now they're saying we want to do it without compensation. It's not our view, it is the government's view, and that's because they've looked at it from a wider view, and they've understood that the previous point has not worked.
This policy was suggested by the current ruling party, which has a decreasing vote in Parliament. And in order for this to be passed into Constitution...
Thank you very much, leaders. Time is up. Gugulethu, the remaining 30 seconds are yours.
As I was trying to say, in order for expropriation without compensation to be passed, we need a 2/3 majority in Parliament, which at the moment we do not have. And another thing is that part of our purpose on this earth is to cultivate the land so it cultivates us. As we saw in the issue of Rifeng Community Trust, they lacked resources, they lacked skills, and it doesn't work to just give land back to people just because they lost it during the apartheid regime. If they do not have the skills, the resources, the business acumen to run this land and profit from it.
Thank you very much. Leader 5, you have 30 seconds.
I must say that I'm very disappointed hearing you say that, considering how much black people have gone through, considering how difficult it was for them to be taken away from their land. But the government has put in place what they call a sustainability test. That is to see that once the land has been given, are you able to sustain it or not? Moreover, it's important for us to look at the fact that farming is not the only solution to giving land. People need to be given ideas and new ways to look at how they can use land. A hairstylist, for example,
Thank you
that's
very much.
somebody
Your
that's not
time is up,
educated.
Leader 5. Leaders, your 60 seconds start now.
Okay, Sibo, you're saying that land should not only be used for farming, right? In the case of Refengkhotse Community Trust, we see that the land was given to the people. They were to decide what they did with it. They decided that they're going to help cultivate it for farming. And they still lost the land. So that land, as you said, is not only for farming. They are not having the land at all. So they do not even have any land to farm.
The people for the trust did not decide to use the land for farming. The land was already for farming. They had to continue farming in that land. The flaw in that is that they did not have enough knowledge about farming. I'm saying we are constricting the issue by just looking at farming.
Yes, but that's not the only issue that you propose. You said that I am ignoring what the black people of South Africa have gone through in the past. What is the point of giving them land if you're not going to help them make sure that they make the best use of that land?
That is precisely what I'm saying.
That's what happened.
If you give somebody the land for something they are passionate about.
They were given people to help them cultivate that land. Those people ran away.
People the land for something they're...
Time is up. Leader 5, you have the remaining 30 seconds.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you give the land to people who are passionate about what they want to do with it, if you give it to a hairstylist, somebody who likes sports, they can create wealth from that. We're not just saying people must farm. Not everybody knows how to farm, but the fact is the land belongs to us. The land was taken from us unfairly, and we need that land. But first, help us to know how we can work that land by giving it with things that we're passionate about, with things that we can sustain. And that's why the farming is a flaw.
All right, I can see our judges busy deliberating another heated final debate there from our two contestants. Deboho, your comments and the verdict on how you think that debate went.
Well, my perspective, and I'll just state it clearly that it's different from the judges. I thought Sibonisile Ngubane took it. I thought you did a brilliant job. From the perspective of Gugu, I think you stuck in the Constitution and technicalities around whether or not we can amend the Constitution. I was looking for solutions. Look at China. They redistribute the land between 1950 and 1953, where 300,000 people received over 87 million hectares of land. So none of that was mentioned.
All right, thank you very much. All right, Deboho, thank you very much. We know who you would have chosen to win this debate personally, but what about your other judges? Overall, what is the verdict?
The verdict is Gugule Tumanyati took this one.
All right. After the break, we find out how our studio audience has voted. Who have they selected to be their favorite for this episode? Welcome back to One Day Leader. Well, now we are about to hear what the judges have to say about how our leaders debated this evening. Well, judges, it was an interesting round of debates, certainly. You heard all the differing views, but it's now time for us to get parting words from you. Briefly, Constance, what are your parting words on this issue?
I think they are very good debaters, all of them. But you look at the characters, there's more dominant and pushy, and there's more slow and careful with words. And that is where the imbalance comes. So they need to do more research on why the failures of land reform. The post-settlement support and the grouping, you can't put 150 people on one land and expect that the conflicts, group dynamics won't contribute to the failure. And then you compare a comparison study to a person who is a business person and is doing he's running his show.
Thank you very much for your insights. Catherine, briefly, your parting words for our leaders.
I think that I see such growth from the last episode to this one. Congratulations to each and every one of you. Go back, gather your thoughts. If you won or lost your debate, go back and just refocus. You need to do research, you need to do homework. And on this specific issue, even though after this episode we put it to bed, continue to think about it. This is an important topic that needs to be addressed because this is one of the issues that continues to hold our nation back. So congratulations to all of you for what you did bring to the party, but up the game for the next episode.
All right. All right, Tebogo, your parting words for our leaders.
Well, in my opinion, landlessness is a crime against humanity. Being dispossessed from your land is one of the worst crimes that could ever happen to anyone. And I think it's important for us to continue thinking about how can we implement some of these policies, as opposed to just talking rhetoric about changing the constitution, whereas we're not using the laws that we have currently. Go and do your research. And when you come here, I need you to be polished, understand your work, do not be reading your notes anymore, and come up with other solutions that perhaps came from outside of the country that worked, or things that are not working logically inside of the country. So please up your game in the next episode.
All right, thank you, judges. Now, our studio audience had the opportunity to vote before the break, and I have the results. Who do you think was the audience's favorite leader? Begisisa, congratulations. Well, thanks to our audience for voting and, of course, our judges. Now, let's have a look at the scoreboard.
Leading the pack by end of this episode is leader 4, Begisisa, with 5 points after a good start to the season. And trailing way behind is leader 5, Sponisile, still on 1 point.
Congratulations to all of you leaders. You all know where you need to polish up and brush yourselves up for next week. So I trust you'll be going home and doing just that. To the viewers at home, remember we'll be showing your voting results next week. Voting closes at 1300 hours this coming Monday. Next week, you will get to see our final scoreboard. Well, thanks to everyone who joined us today, our candidates, our judges, of course, our studio audience, and you at home for sitting through this episode with us. Well, to Constance, thank you very much for joining us on the show. Your insight and knowledge was highly appreciated. Thank you once again for joining us. Next week, we have yet another exciting episode of One Day Leader. I leave you with the words of Julius Nyerere. You cannot develop people. You must allow people to develop themselves. From myself, Paul Shongwe, Umtimanzu, Bambulunye, Mageza Ngelbisi Mantahleti, and the rest of the One Day Leader team, Lishonile Nilabagala Zidze.